resource superprofits tax raises some very important political issues, but it also raises constitutional issues. The very name, resource superprofits tax, is no doubt intended to create an impression in the minds of the Australian people that this is about taxing superprofits. Economists don't know what superprofits are. Apparently this will be defined as anything above about 6%. The term superprofits, strangely, comes from a Marxist interpretation of economics, that is, the theory of surplus value, where Marx relied upon the Mehrwert, that is, the superprofit. It's strange that the spin doctors would choose a Marxist term to promote a tax in modern Australia. That said, there are important constitutional implications, not only in relation to the Federal Constitution of 1900, but also in relation to our constitutional system, which we have inherited, that golden thread that goes back to the Magna Carta itself. And one of the first things which is of concern in relation to the introduction of the proposal for this tax is that the Henry Report was not tabled in Parliament. Now, Parliament is the centre of our constitutional system. We are representative democracy, and that's the place where any major new policy should first be debated. And what should have happened, and what normally would have happened, is that the Henry Review would have been tabled in the Parliament. There would have been a debate there, but also a debate in the nation, particularly with those most interested. And only after that would the government have come to a policy conclusion, having heard all sides. The government chose not to do that, and very strangely had a media lock-up of 4 hours, to which the opposition was invited. That, in many ways, is, I think, a contempt of the very concept of Parliament. That's not the way a representative democracy is intended to work. You don't produce a report, you don't sit on it, and then you don't only give the opposition 4 hours to react to it, to react to what is essentially something already settled. There's another broader constitutional issue in relation to the process, and that is one of the elements of the Westminster system. And the great constitutionalist Walter Bagehot said it belongs peculiarly to the Westminster system, is that we have an independent public service. The purpose of that is that the public service can give impartial advice to the government of the day. Strangely, Dr. Henry, who's the head of the Treasury, was asked to do the review. This is most unusual. Normally, it would have been a judge, somebody who knows something about tax, but who is not involved in the government or the public service. And then that review would have been handed to the government would have tabled it, and the government would have had the independent advice of the Treasury. We've got to the situation now where the resource superprofits tax is in many ways Dr. Henry's baby, and he's seeing it as that. He has even put out a press release defending it and criticising those who challenge the tax. That's not the way the Westminster system is supposed to work. So just at that initial stage, we have concerns, firstly about the contempt with which Parliament has been treated, and secondly, the undermining of the independence of the public service. Now, both sides have contributed to this in recent years, but it's time, surely, that we restored the public service to the independence it once enjoyed. Now, the next issue in relation to the tax concerns the federal constitution. When Australians agreed to unite, as the preamble to the Constitution Act says, humbly relying on the blessings of Almighty God, they agreed to unite in a federal commonwealth under the Crown and under the Constitution. And only certain powers, certain limited powers, were surrendered to the federal authorities, to the Commonwealth. And certainly one of the things that the states, the people of the states, did not want the Commonwealth to have was control over the minerals in the state, because the minerals were vested in the Crown in the right of the states, not the Crown in the right of the Commonwealth. We must try and picture the Crown, this institution above politics, which is there as a constitutional guardian and as the central authority to which the non-political arms of the state owe allegiance, the judiciary, the public service, the army and so on. We have to see the Crown in its separate manifestations, because we're a federation. So we have, on the one hand, the Crown in the right of the states, a state crown, if you will, for each of the states. And then you have the Crown in the right of the Commonwealth, which relates to Commonwealth matters, including the territories. It's very important to appreciate that. And what is very clear is that the minerals, the onshore minerals, are vested in the Crown in the right of the states. And in most Crown grants of land, they have been usually reserved to the Crown. We see this if we go back to the original Crown grants made by the governors or their delegates in each of the states. And that's a very important thing to bear in mind, particularly as the federal government is saying the minerals are owned by the people of Australia. Actually, they're owned by the people of each of the states. That's a very important distinction, because it means that the relevant authority in relation to charges for the extraction of those minerals is not Canberra, it's Perth, it's the government in Brisbane, the government in Melbourne and Sydney and Hobart and Adelaide. And that is the situation.